Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast, our 5th anniversary season. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and the writer of Jake'sTake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe. If you're listening to this on our audio platforms, please give us a 5-star rating, download this episode, and more episodes. I'm very excited to welcome this guest today. He is an award-winning director. He's the founder of Seraph Films, and his projects have included The Disappearance of Madison Bishops, The Orpheus Protocol, and Horror Haiku. He also has done Seize the Night and Alone Together. So please help me welcome Gene Blalock to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, Gene. Thank you so much for taking time and going to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get started. So when did you get interested in filmmaking? How did that passion evolve into the desire to pursue a career in the entertainment industry?
I've always been, ever since a young age, I've had interest in like literature, art, film, pretty much anything that's artistic and creative. I've had an interest in music. I was a professional musician for many, many years, before getting back into filmmaking. But, where I grew up, creative stuff like that was hobbies you did on the weekend. It wasn't something that you pursued as a career. So anytime I would talk about wanting to paint or wanting to do music or make film, it was always, that's great. You can do that on the weekends. What's going to be your main career path? And that just never sat well with me. It was not something that like, why is this the norm that we should have to go do these 9 to 5 jobs Monday through Friday and not have them be creative and things like that. So I've always kind of went on the premise of, I'd rather be poor and happy than, rich and miserable working in a cubicle every day. And it wasn't until I got to university that I was enrolled as a philosophy major. And it wasn't until someone said, you can do this filmmaking thing, and so I started looking into that and then eventually ended up going to Columbia College for filmmaking. And while there, I started a band, as one does in college, and that took off. We got a spec deal with a major label out here in LA, and that's when I made the move from Chicago to Los Angeles. And after many, many years of just the rigors of touring and doing records and touring and things like that, really, you get burned out after a little while. And I thought, well, I'm just going to take a short break, go back to one of my other loves, filmmaking, make a couple short films, and then I'll go back to music. There was always a plan to go back and continue with the band. And it just, after about 5 short films, it just started rolling from there. And I still get together with my friend James and play music every now and again. But this is my life now, just making movies and filming things. So.
And besides, you're building universes, so you definitely have your own Blalock universe all ready to go.
Yeah, we have this weird thing where we try to connect all our stuff in some weird random way if we can. But and definitely I've been told that that my films look like mine, which I think is a huge compliment, because you see films like a Spielberg film as soon as you see it, so, and Tarantino film as soon as you see that. So I'm glad, I'm happy that people think I have this. Usually I'm making it up as I go along, but it's just the way my brain works. But I'm happy that people see that. So.
Absolutely. Speaking of filmmakers like Tarantino and Spielberg, who are the filmmakers that inspired you?
Oh, well, Spielberg is one of my favorite filmmakers. Ever since I was a little kid and saw E.T., it was just like, I don't know what this is, but there's something magical about this. There's a world here that you don't get to experience every day. And as a kid in Virginia, running through the woods and playing with my friends in the woods, that film, you're kind of like, I wish that's what it could be, so it's this fantasy thing that kind of happened that really, latched me on the Spielberg. But David Lynch is a huge inspiration. Tim Burton, I think anyone that has a very stylized look, I kind of lean into, I think so. But those are my top ones, would be like Spielberg, Lynch, and then Burton. And then on a local front, there's so many independent filmmakers right here in Los Angeles that just every time I see something they do and knowing their budgets and how they do it, it's just inspiration for me to keep doing, what we're doing.
That's amazing to hear that. So do you like doing independent, or do you like having a studio backing?
Well, I've never been to the point where we had a major studio throwing tons of money at us. but I definitely prefer, quite honestly, the indie level. You get a bit more freedom, a bit more creativity. Your budgets are a lot more limited, but I think it also forces you to think outside the box. With studio stuff, and even on my very first film ever, we had producers and EPs that were constantly over my shoulder, questioning why you're doing everything, and that's just not cohesive to a good work environment. I want people there that want to create and want to surround and share on the ideas and build it and make it better. Filmmaking is very collaborative, and I like those people. But when there's people over your shoulder just constantly nagging and questioning you, and then when you get to the edit, well, we got to do it this way, we got to do it that way, and it's because that's got to get to 90 minutes, it's got to be marketable, and I'm not interested in any of that. I'm much rather just make the movie that we want to make the project that we want to make, and at the end of the day, if it's successful and people like it, great, and if not, hey, we made the project we wanted to make.
And it's better to have that you made the project that you want to make than having people like having to go for 4 to 8 drafts of anything.
Right. And the first film I ever did, The Nightmare Gallery, it's a terrible film. It's a horrible film. Not necessarily because I was such a brilliant director. It was just there was too many cooks in the kitchen and too many people wanting to control what it was. And it was, so it's not a good film at all. But like you said, at the end of the day, this is your legacy. When you're gone, these are the people going to pull up. So why not make the film that you want to make rather than what you were told was going to be successful?
Absolutely. And speaking of legacy, can you describe Seraph Films' origin story to my audience?
It kind of came about in a roundabout way. It's just when we were doing things at university, making those short films and things like that, we wanted to put little logos at the beginning, and so I just came up with Seraph Films because it's kind of a play on seraphim, which is a type of angel, and for some reason even though I have no religious, I'm an atheist, but the concept of angels has always kind of fascinated me. So, Seraph Film became Seraph Films, and it was something I just threw on projects we were doing just for fun. But then when it came time to actually start doing productions under my, under production company that I was trying to get off the ground with my partner, business partner, Phil, we needed a name, and that just seemed as good as any. So that's what kind of stuck, and that's where we left. It's always been that, but it's a collective of indie filmmakers. It's always has been. It's always been about getting people together. That obviously everybody needs to get paid and needs to make money and pay rent and stuff like that. But that's not the reason we're making this. We're getting together because we like working together. We like the story that we're getting ready to start telling and things like that. So it's just been a collective, group of indie filmmakers that have just ragtag. So we got $500 in a weekend. What can we do?
And that's always the best part of the challenge is like, can you make your film in a certain amount of time and with a certain amount of money?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. We're always fighting against budgets. That's for sure.
All right. So what goes through your mind when it comes to bringing a film from conception to release?
What goes through my mind? Well, I think as soon as it's hard for me to if the script is really good and I start reading, it's really hard for me to stay concentrated on the script because my brain automatically jumps to this shot and that shot and how we're going to tell this, and the camera's going to move from here to here. So I often have to go back and realize I've read 4 pages of the script that I don't recall because I got to go back and read it again because my brain was already into production mode. So if the script is really good and it's something I enjoy, I'm in 100%. I usually start creating a playlist that's going to represent the film, and I'll carry that all the way through, even on set. And I'm listening to the music that I've kind of set up from day one to do it and work through production things. But ultimately what goes through my mind is what is this character's story? What is his arc? What is he going through? How is he relatable to us as either wanting to go along on this journey with him or wanting to see him fail or wanting to see, what is compelling about him that makes us want to follow that story? And so that's always my thing. And to me, it's always an emotion. I always look for more of an emotional arc and more of a, what the character, not necessarily the situation he goes through. He gets in a car, he goes here and he does this. It's more of emotionally, what does he travel through and where does he end up versus where he is at the beginning. So to me, it's always about the relationship with the characters, rather than the story around it. That's great and all, but some of the best stories I think are ones that, it's a sci-fi story, but the story could happen in a Western, or the story itself could happen in, a musical for that matter. It's the core story that is in the middle of everything and the world and everything else happens around that.
Awesome,
I don't know if that
awesome.
answered.
So
I might have rambled there. I don't know. I tend to say
don't
that.
worry, you didn't ramble. So we got to talk about some of the challenges that you face staying in the entertainment industry, and how have you overcome those obstacles?
Well, then, quite honestly, the entertainment industry right now is a mess. It is just, there's not a lot of productions happening. There's not a lot of people being able to get projects off the ground. A24 is like A24 is still managing to do it somehow, and they're making amazing films. But it's just this fight of, and it's why we had all the strikes a little while back, and it's been a challenge ever since then, just from an overall industry perspective. Things that, we had COVID, and then we had the strikes, and so it's been a real slow restart into production. And even now, it's a lot of fighting with, well, if I can just type this prompt into a browser and it generates this for me, why am I paying you so much money? Why am I giving you money? And we were just talking about the other day is one of my producers was like, oh, I don't think AI is ever going to be as good as humans. And my thought is, it doesn't have to be, because with the mainstream industry, it just has to be good enough for them to make their money back and move on to the next thing. It doesn't have to be great. It just has to be good enough. And that's very frustrating. But that's, again, why I like the indie world, is we get to go and make the projects that we want to make. And yes, one of the biggest, challenges in that part of it is, the financing of it. We always need a little more money than we have, but but that forces you to get very resourceful. Like the other day, we shot 3 days on an upcoming feature that's not going to go into production for another 5 months or so, like that. But we had one of the locations that's going to save about $6,000 or $7,000 down the road. So we got the cast and crew together and said, hey, can we pull this off? Can we shoot the scene now, 6 months ahead of production? And everyone was really about it. But so those are some of the challenges, is always like having enough money to really get what's in your head out, what's inside your head out onto the screen and in the story.
And it sounds like you're way ahead of schedule, especially the shooting scenes on location 6 months out of main production. That saves a lot of time.
But we went into it like we were getting the cast and crew together. Like, we understand we are absolutely mental for trying to do this right now. It's insane, but do you guys want to try to go along with this? And that's the people I work with, and the teams. The team that I try to put together, and the talent. They're always like, yeah, let's do it. If we can, if this is going to give us more money down the road, if this is going to help in some way or another, let's do it. Let's just make this work. So you jump really into an intense analysis of the script and making sure that scene is perfect, and going from there. So just try and be as resourceful as possible.
Awesome. I would love to talk about some of your projects with you, and
Sure.
how, because if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So I want to start off with the disappearance of Mass and Bishop, and you were involved with 41 episodes of that series. Can you describe how that series came about and how you got involved with it?
Yeah, I mean, I have a group of creative people I usually work with, and this is back. We used to do a lot more on YouTube. We still do things and post to YouTube every now and again. We still do another series we do, but at one point, that's where we were really concentrating on. We had a web series for another company we were doing, and we had our own stuff, but we had kind of reached a point where we were at kind of a pause between doing YouTube and short stuff, and we were in between features, and so we get bored pretty easy. So like, if it's not me, it's someone else on my team that's like, we really should shoot something now. And so it came up. John, one of my producing partners, is really into the ARG world, like the alternative reality game stuff, and so he had this concept of like, what if this girl's sister goes missing, and she has to figure out what happened, and reaches out to the internet for it. And we originally put it up without explanation, not saying, hey, this is a project that we're doing, us not even attached to it at all. We just kind of put it up on YouTube to see what would happen. And with with everything we do on YouTube, we try to have it, audience participation with it, whether it's, interacting with comments or them giving us suggestions for things. But this one was different in that each video had a clue in it somewhere, or multiple clues in it. And if a viewer found that clue and we were able to, let us know that was a clue, we were able to then have the character go explore that. So it was almost like a choose your own adventure game, because we didn't know. We had the overall arc, but we didn't know which part of the story we'd be telling next, because it was really dependent on the viewer finding whichever clue it went to. So we did that way, and it was interesting because we did things like leave a clue for a coordinate, map location in Atlanta, Georgia, for example, to park. And I had, my sister lives there, so I had her go tape a thumb drive underneath the bench there that one of the viewers there went and found and was able to. So we really tried to make it an inclusive world for people to and figure out what happened to Madison Bishop.
And that must have been an amazing series. And speaking of other series, you had a very long run with Horror Haiku, 44 episodes in this near 11 span of 11 years.
Yeah, that was the one that really kind of we jumped into YouTube full steam. We were doing every week we were doing an episode and a behind the scenes thing. And again, it was based on viewer submission. So we'd ask the viewer, leave your horror haiku in the comments, and then we would try to make it into an episode. And the episodes aren't, there's little small vignettes. It's like you're looking through a keyhole into something that's happening in the room, and it's just a sliver of the story. But it was creative by myself and my friend James. We just wanted to do something fun, and he and I are really into like Halloween and like creepy stuff. So we came up with this idea of, I think it's actually his idea, James, that was like, we're gonna do horror haiku, and it's like, that's interesting. It's like it, I hadn't heard of something like that before. So he and I kind of started developing it out, and it's evolved over the years. Originally had like some horror hosts for the first 2 seasons that were like introducing and kind of hosting in the series all the way around and together. And now it's something we just do if we, like I said, I've got a good group of people that just like making things. So it's like, hey, we've got a Wednesday evening access to this location. Can we do a horror haiku around it? So it's just, I like to constantly be busy, and I love being on set. So it's, if we got any downtime and we're not doing anything else, we might as well shoot an episode of it. And I think we just did one like 3 weeks ago. So it's not as regular as it used to be, but they will pop up from time to time on the channel.
And that's amazing that you have all this work done, but also on top of that, you're keeping true to your brand. And it sounds like Horror Haiku combines the best elements of the Twilight Zone, Are You Afraid, a dark and American Horror Story.
I'm a big Twilight Zone fan. I grew up watching that and The Outer Limits and Tales from the Crypt and things like that. And I don't think, as a director, I'm excessively really good at jump scares and things like that. James Wan definitely has the master, is the master on that. But so most of my horror films, are more about the psychological side of things. So that's usually where I will go with the story and things like that. And but we did a season where we had guest directors come in and do episodes, and that was always fascinating to me because I'm how I would do it. You see how someone else does it, and it's like, wow, I hadn't thought about that. And that's what I love about filmmaking. I love watching other people direct and seeing how they go about it. But yeah, it's been a fun series that we get to pop in and do every now and again. So
I would love to watch it, but however, the thing is, I get scared really easily.
Horror haiku, we joke about it. It's like Goosebumps or something like that. It's not super scary at all. It's more like, usually, like I said, you said Twilight Zone, little twist of tales and things like that. Nothing scary. So.
Yeah, because I get scared very easily. Like you not find me on a Universal Horror Night, that's for sure.
Don't hang about this in October. James and I, from September to November, doing nothing but haunted houses every weekend and things like that.
Alrighty, I want to talk to you about 2 of your other projects. Let's talk about Seize the Night.
Okay, yeah, Seize the Night. Originally called Carpe Noctem, and I still wish it was called that. But that was a project that was brought to me by one of my producers. He had been working with this guy here in Hollywood that had kind of created this story and asked John to help him look at the script and help him develop it and see what was actually, doable, and if it was something that could be produced for low budget. And after they had been working on it for a few months, he brought it to me, and I loved the story. It was, it takes place from sundown to sun up one night in Los Angeles, Christmas Eve in Los Angeles. And it's, boy meets girl, and they decide to spend the evening together, but there's a big secret being hidden. And throughout the end of the evening, that secret is revealed. It's not a horror film at all. It's drama 100%. Everyone thinks everything I do is horror, but it's not. I actually much prefer drama. But so it was a very interesting production because it was at the time the lowest budget I'd ever had for a film, and we had to get incredibly resourceful. I remember we were grilling shots on Hollywood Boulevard, hanging out a car with a gimbal to try and get the car driving down Hollywood Boulevard and everything. But Pasha, who wrote it, also funded it himself through, I have no idea how, mob connections or something like that. We were joking that if he didn't show up to set one day, it wouldn't surprise us. But so he had written it for himself to play the lead, and that was like one of the stipulations that came along with it. I had to cast him as the lead, and he had to have approval of everything, and a lot of times I get that, your passion project and things like that. And I always try and honor what the writer and what the intent of the writer was. But we ended up changing a lot as we went along. The story just kind of developed, and rather than it being completely his story, it became his story told through the eyes of the girl that he meets throughout the evening. So it's his story, but it's told through a different lens, and I ended up changing the entire end of the film from what it originally was. But I'm pretty it's one of the films I'm very, very proud of, because we had so little resources, and yet the film feels huge. We kept just falling into being able to get locations that we thought we needed. Like, how do we get this goth club in Los Angeles, and how do we fill it with background to make sure it feels like it's alive and things, and being real creative about shooting all the wides one night, and then we don't have to bring the background back the next night, and just we just need a couple people moving in the background, which could be a crew member or something else. So we were very resourceful on that, and it feels a lot bigger than it has any right to be. But it's a story that I really love. It's a tragic, in the traditional, like, kind of tragedies, back when operas were either comedy or tragedy. It was one or the other, and this one I think has a little bit of comedy in it, but overall it's a tragedy. And I'm pretty happy with it. We pulled off some stuff that I honestly didn't think we would be able to do, and some of my best some of the best camera work that we had. We had a really great DP, Daniel Button, that was really able to be scrappy and be able, okay, we need a camera here, but we can't, we're shooting at the middle of the night. How do we light this thing and everything? I was really creative about it, and really got some of my favorite shots we've ever gotten in any of the films. So
Awesome. The final project I want to talk to you about is Alone Together.
Alone Time.
Alone. I'm so sorry. Why did I think of it was Alone Together?
No, it's all good. Alone Time. Yeah, that was the film we did right after. There was this film right after Carpe Noctem, but we had started planning on doing it before COVID hit. And obviously that lockdowns happened, and we couldn't do anything, but it gave us time to kind of really start reflecting on the script and really kind of building it up to what it was. That came about because I had met a writer named Paul Coates, and he, he's a well-established playwright and is really well known in the theatrical world, and a brilliant director in his own as far as stage goes and things like that. And through a mutual friend, I'd met him because he wanted to get dip his toes in the world of filmmaking. So he had written this short film that we shot, and it was like a day or 2 day shoot or something like that, super small, and we just kind of hit it off. And while we were filming, because we were filming this short at his house, he happens to mention, he goes, "Oh yeah, the 1950 fallout bomb shelter in our backyard." And I laughed about it, and then I realized he was serious. I'm like, "Wait a minute, you have a bomb shelter in your backyard here in Los Angeles?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Why aren't we making that film? What are we doing? Why are we making this one?" And he was like, "I don't." He's like, when we moved in, we went down there once and we covered it up, and I'm not, I don't like it. We're not going to do it. And then a week later he texts me. He's like, "I'm writing the damn bomb shelter movie." And so we kind of worked on it, and stars were Sean Stone, who's a really well known in the UK actor, and coming over here to do feature films and things like that. In the television world, he was on Black Mirror. And if you saw him, you kind of go, "Oh yeah, I know that guy." But really well known in the UK world. But so it was really great to get to have him come over and be the lead in it. He's so compelling and strong. I guess it gets thrown in a little bit into the horror genre, but to me, it's more of a psychological thriller. It's about a writer who's moved into this new home that finds a bomb shelter in his backyard and becomes obsessed with it. And as he becomes more obsessed with that and trying to finish his latest novel, he ends up in a spiral of madness until he it gets obsessed. I have to know what's in this bomb shelter and what's calling me to go down there. And the funny thing I found out later on is that a lot of the beats in the script are things that actually happened when Paul first moved into his house. He found out like the previous occupant had died, and there in the bomb shelter, and so he wrote all that in the script. So the old adage of write what you know, he certainly did, but then put a whole fantastical side on it of a writer, descent into madness, which stories we've seen many times before, but this one he seemed to have a really unique spin on with with Colin being obsessed with getting into that bomb shelter and destroying everything, all his family and friends around him to make that happen. And again, another tragic ending. So
tragedy and horror, those are the definitely your types of work, Gene.
See, so it seems.
All right, so let's talk about social media. So what have been some of the best ways that you use social media to not just discover your film, have people discover your films, but also become more involved with you and Seraph Films team?
Yeah, I mean, social media has gotten a bit muddied these days. It's not what it once was as far as being able to connect people, because you get a lot of ads and everything else. But over the years, I've built up a lot of connections in the film world through either talent or other filmmakers and things like that. And a lot of times, like I said, we'll have a weekend that we want to shoot a horror haiku, so we'll just post on social media, hey, we need an act, we need 3 actors, and here's what they are. And usually there's a lot of response to that. And then our other, people that we worked with, we have all the talent we've ever worked with. They're just so supportive. A lot of times they'll help us find talent for what we're doing and things like that. And it's all done usually through social media and things like that. But, obviously you use it to, promote your work and hopefully get exposure that way.
Awesome. So last question, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Where can my audience find information about your films, and also, not to mention, connect with you on social media?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, most of the social media for me personally is under my name, Gene Blalock, GeneBlaLock, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. You can also find Seraph Films on most of them under that name as well, SERAPHFILMS on Instagram and Facebook and things like that. And Seraph.film is the website. GeneBlaLock.com is for me. And I love connecting with new filmmakers, and it's always it's funny because it's a lot of times people will connect, and it's not for another year that we actually get to work together. But that initial introduction, because when you're looking for something down the road, you're like, oh yeah, this one person wrote me, and then you go back and reconnect with them and bring them in for projects. So it's definitely I love connecting with other filmmakers and just even just talking about film in general. It's just great.
Awesome. And so, guys, if you missed an episode of the Steak with Jacob Elyachar Podcast, visit our channels on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Spotify, and Spreaker. Steak with Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. Are you on social media? I'm on social media too: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOBELYACHAR. And guys, want to know what's going on with America's Got Talent? Want to know what happened on the last season of The Masked Singer? And want to see some more on my interviews? Head over to jakes-shake.com. Once again, jakes-shake.com. Gene, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to have these little talks.
Awesome. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Till next time, have a great one, everybody. Good.